Thanks, Debbie. I'm going to go ahead and call the Finance Committee for County Health System to order. Pursuant to the Illinois Opens Meetings Act, meetings held remotely will require roll call votes for all action items. To streamline, we've combined all the anticipated action items into one combined motion. So hopefully only one roll call vote will be needed during the meeting. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Director Deere?
Present.
Director Harrington?
Present.
Director Story?
Present.
Chair Ryder?
Here.
And for the record, those directors also present. Director Kim?
Here.
And Director Sorrell?
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Debbie. Is there any chance, Dennis, that you could do your real roll call catchphrase? Because I really missed it. You only did half of it.
Deer is here.
Thank you. Thank you for indulging me. The next regular meeting of the Finance Committee is scheduled Thursday, April 20th at 9 a.m. Debbie, is there anyone registered to provide virtual oral testimony or submitted testimony to be included in the record?
No, we did not receive any registrations, nor did we receive any written.
Okay, great. Thank you. Our first action item is the February 16th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting minutes. These were approved by the board at the February board meeting, but are being presented for the committee's review and discussion if necessary. Are there any corrections that need to be made to the minutes? Any corrections that need to be made to the minutes? Any corrections? Hearing none, we will hold the approval of the minutes for the combined motion. Items under the Chief Procurement Officer. We have several action items under contracts and procurement. We're going to continue doing it the way that we have been and have them be presented by the sponsors, and Charles will also be available to answer any questions. The first two items are being presented by Dr. Lamar Hasbrook, the Cook County Department of Health Chief Operating Officer. Dr. Hasbrook, are you ready?
It does not look like he's present. Would you like Charles to run through them, or would you like to circle back to Dr. Hasbrook when he joins?
Charles, can you just go ahead and do these two?
If that's your preference. Good morning, Charles Jones, Chief Procurement Officer. If that's your preference, Chair, I can do them.
Let's do it.
All right, the first request is a request to extend and increase the contract with Flowers Communication to provide marketing and communication services on behalf of the Department of Public Health, $888,000 with a 12-month extension. There's two grants that this is supporting: the CDC Health Equity Grant and the Illinois Tobacco Free Community Grant, $888,000 here with the 12-month extension.
Thank you, Charles. Good morning. This is Lamar. I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, sir.
I can answer any questions if there are any to the directors. Okay. Again, apologies for being late. So I just had one other contract for your review and consideration to the board members. This one is to United Way. This one is for basically the expansion of the 211 system into our jurisdiction. But not only that, 211 system, as you all know, helps to connect folks to social services and resources. But this also allows them to do some marketing and education for the community to actually understand what 211 is and to drive traffic to 211 to serve folks. It is a extended increase, a total of $142,000. Director Harrington,
Any
did you have a question? Sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah, I apologize for that. Not a question as much as an observation. It just provides another data set to better understand the population we serve in terms of social services being requested. And So that was one of the things I know they were using in downstate Illinois. They were using the information relative to service requests to incorporate that in their um, strategic plans.
Yes, that's a great point. Yeah, so we try to do that anytime we have kind of something like a a hotline or service line. The NAMI would be another example for mental health. We have them to kind of give us some of the numbers in terms of the zip codes and areas where folks are calling from, so we can get some sense. We don't always get the granular data in terms of what they're calling for, but we can often get the census tracts that they're calling from. So that can really help us in some of our planning efforts.
Yeah, well, as I understand, 211 collects information relative to the nature of the service request. So it may be general, but it may be a request for food, for housing, or
Right.
domestic abuse. So there are some categories that would really be important to capture.
Absolutely, great point. We'll make sure we're doing that. If we're not already, I would suspect that we are. But I'll share that with the team. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also for the record, I'm going to be recusing myself from this item and also flag that for Debbie and Jeff. When it comes to a vote, I sit on the board of directors for the United Way of Metro Chicago.
Mr.
All
Chair,
right. Yes, Dennis.
Mr. Chair, if I could digress back, I think I missed hearing the last one, I believe, for Flowers Communication. Charles, what was that one for?
Sure, I can answer that, Director Deere.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, so this is a communication company, and they help us with our marketing and communications. They are on board for a number of different initiatives that we're doing across the department. This particular one for $888,000 is to focus on really two buckets of work. One is to help us with the branding, the brand imagery, the brand identity, the brand signal, if you will, for the health department, and basically taking advantage of some of the COVID work we've done to help folks really understand that we are about health equity and addressing racial disparities and gaps, things like that. So they're working with us on our brand identity. And then the other piece that they'll be doing is leading our tobacco-free initiative, which is a tobacco prevention educational campaign that will go out into the field. But they also do things for us in STDs and mental health and others. So they're a great company. We do a lot of work with them.
Thank you so much. And I'm appreciative because I know that this is an MDE company. I don't think it's indicated here, but I'm
Yes, it
familiar
is.
with something that worked before, and they do great work. But I think this goes a long way, especially since we're talking about health equity and indicating that this is an MDE company. So thanks so much for that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Dr. Hasbrook? Right. We're going to move on then to items 3 and 4, health plan services, that are going to be presented by Aaron Galiner, our Chief Administrative Officer.
Morning, directors. I have 2 items for you today. The first is a contract with Housing Forward. This is an extension of a current partnership. Housing Forward receives HUD funding, which they then dedicate to house a set of county care members. The amounts you see here support supportive services for those members that are being housed. So this extension allows that partnership to continue. If no questions on that point, sorry.
I was just going to say, no question. Go ahead.
The next item is for $31,000 for Smart Sheets, which is a project management tool that's used both by the health plan team as well as the Cook County Health team for our various project management projects.
All right. There's no questions on that one. Thank you, Aaron. And we'll move on to items 5 through 6, behavioral services, which are going to be presented by Pamela Esposito, our Senior Behavioral Health Officer.
Chair Ryder, I don't believe she is present. So again, would you like Charles to go through them, or would you like me to reach out and try and get her to join?
We're going to keep rolling. So Charles, if you can present 5 and 6, that'd be great.
Good morning again, Charles Jones, Chief Procurement Officer. Number 5 is Habilitative Systems, Inc. to provide community triage and wellness center in the Garfield Park community. We're extending for 12 months and increasing by $800,000. They'll continue to help us reduce mental health and substance abuse occurrence, such as opioid addiction. And both of these contracts, 5 and 6, are very similar. We will be going out with an RFP over the next quarter two for future endeavors. Similar with number 6 is Human Resource Development Institute, HRDI. This is 10 months, so it's $667,000. And this is for the community triage center in the Roseland community, doing the same scope of work as the Garfield Park. I see a hand. Is that from earlier, Commissioner Steer, or is there a question?
Charles, I have a question. I don't know if you can see my hand is probably not raised.
Go ahead, Director Story.
I was just wondering, Chair, is there anyone from management that can just speak at a high level about the history of our working relationship with regards to these 2 contracts? I mean, it seems like it's great work in the community.
That would be Ms. Esposito, but I don't know if we defer to Mr. Rocha. Do you have any comments? Or
I can provide some background.
Thank you, Andrew.
So these are projects that I worked on. I believe in 2017, we opened up the triage center in Roseland. And I think a few years later, we worked with HSI in West Garfield Park to open up this triage and wellness center. So these were started because of an analysis of zip codes and the jail, and where we saw behavioral health detainees coming from primarily, and wanted to add resources and capacity in these neighborhoods.
Thank you. So they were targeted for a specific reason.
Yes.
Great work. Sounds good. Thank you for that explanation.
Sure.
All right. We're going to move on then. I believe we're on to item number 7. Dr. Fegan.
Yes, good morning, directors. This is for a vendor who provides sleep studies and the equipment. When we do a sleep study and it is positive, the patients require a CPAP machine. Directors may or may not be aware that about 15% of patients who have hypertension, this is the cause. And so treating this actually either reduces or does away with the hypertension. So it's an important study. We don't, at this point, have the resources to provide this ourselves.
Any questions for Dr. Fegan? Hearing none, we're going to move to request number 8 under equity and inclusion. Shannon Andrews, our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. Shannon.
Good morning, Chair and Board of Directors. The item in front of you is a request to amend and increase a contract with Chestnut Health Systems. The increase is in the dollar value of $80,000. Working with the funder, we came to an agreement to realign monies that were made available in this grant to further support the work that's being done in the emergency room around looking at an alternative for opioid and pain management. And so this will be in alignment and with the approval of the grantor to continue this work.
Dennis, your hand is still up, at least on my screen. I don't know if you had a question or if you just haven't taken it down yet.
No, I'm gonna take it down now. That was from last time. Thanks.
No problem. If there's no questions for Shannon on this one, the next item is I don't know who's presenting on this, if it's Shannon or Pam Casara, our CFO.
I'm
number
on
9.
the microphone. I'll pick this one up, and finance can opine if there are any questions related to their portion. But this is a request to extend and increase the contract with GR Information Management Services. This contract essentially provides space and storage for at least on behalf of materials management. Documentation. The system works in a way that allows us to house non-financial, non-patient paperwork in this site, and it allows for us to be able to call back any materials that we need. The intent is to work, this contract is countywide, multiple departments utilize it, and the intent is to go out with an RFP to replace it. We're currently doing an assessment and getting a clear understanding of the needs across the organization so that we might go out with an RFP for a replacement. But essentially it is a request to increase by $560,000 in total and to extend through, I'm sorry, Debbie, could you scroll down a little bit? I just don't have that end date on my screen. Thank you, through June of 2024. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Shannon. Next item before you is for finance. This is an extend for time only contract with GE. GE is one of our 2 leasing vendors that we lease equipment through. This is mainly to make the contract lease end date coterminous with the maturity dates of all the longest lease schedules. No fiscal impact. If no questions, next item is for revenue cycle. This is an extend and increase contract with Salud Revenue Partners. Salud, this is the original contract, which was an RFP, included 2 one-year renewal options. And this is the exercising of the first of the 2 one-year renewal options, taking it through August of 2024. Salud is a zero balance vendor who attempts to collect additional missed reimbursement. It is a contingency-based contract. So if they don't find anything, they don't get paid anything. No questions on that one. I think I have one more. Yes, the Cancer Registry Program. This is an extend and increase contract for the software we use to record state and federal reporting related to cancer registry so we can maintain our accreditation status. This is a request to increase for a 12-month period through April of 2024.
All right. Now we're moving to 13 through 14, 13 and 14, which I think is a combo actually. For finance and health information systems. So I'm not sure, Pam, are you presenting this one or Angela?
If Angela's on, I'll let her take it. If she's not, I'll do it.
Yes, I'm on. Good morning, directors.
Yeah, Angela O'Banion, our Chief Information Officer. Those listening.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning. Can you hear me? Yep. Great.
Yep.
All right. So good morning, directors. This item is for our, it's a little background noise, but I'll keep talking over it. This item is for our continued great revenue cycle work as it relates to training physicians and other providers regarding our Promise Point breakaway customized training that we use focused on coding primarily is what this particular contract is for. And it is both a it's an extension. The current contract period doesn't end until November, so it's an increase, I should say, in funding. And this is being primarily managed through Curtis Haley, our Chief Revenue Officer, but the overall Atos contract is within the HIS budget, which is why I am speaking to it.
Right.
The next
Go ahead.
item is for also related to coding in our ongoing efforts to improve our revenue capture. 3M is our vendor that is the certified coding provider, software provider for Cerner, which is why this is sole source. But the 3M product is what we use for both facility and professional fee coding. Luma Health, as you may recall, is the vendor that we began to use during our beginning of our COVID crisis. We are still utilizing Luma to inform of vaccine notifications for appointments related to any vaccination requirements, flu, and it's able to also, we use them for monkeypox, etc. So this was an emergency purchase during the pandemic. And this is obviously for the rest of the 2023 year and for 2024. The next contract is a consolidation of approximately 14 or 15 existing GPO CDW products. These are often the $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 items, some larger that we bring to you each board meeting. I have at least 2 or 3 of these that are under this particular GPO, and this GPO, this request consolidates all of those items in a not to exceed buying contract with CDW. And again, all of the contracts that make this $35 million are existing either this year or for future years, and we're consolidating them in order not to have to come back to the board each time. Should we exceed the total amount listed here, we will of course come back to the board. We are doing the same thing with our other GPO vendor, Insight, from whom we also purchase software, hardware. These are not services contracts. These are device primarily contracts, racks, different types of computer furniture, such as carts that we use to roll equipment around on. Again, should we exceed the amount listed here, we will come back to the board. But it does allow for a significant amount of efficiencies throughout the system by not having to come to the committee for this GPO. These GPO items.
This is Director Harrington. I have 2 questions. The first is, and I'm assuming it's not the case, but there's no cost savings to us in terms of consolidating.
There is not a cost savings that is directly related to the items that we're purchasing, but there is a cost savings related to how many attorneys and contract specialists and employees across the system
work on these 25 some odd contracts that comprise the two of these. So the savings is in efficiencies and person hours as opposed to the individual devices that we're purchasing. Yes.
Yeah, and since they've been consolidated, that you may have a problem with one or more of the contracts that you have. And I'm assuming that if there are some problems moving forward, you'll come back to us with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Our next, are we on to our, that was Angela's last one, right? It's, I can't tell screen.
Yes.
Moving on to request number 18 through 20, being presented by Dr. Bina Peters, our Chief Nursing Executive.
Good morning, Chair Ryder and the directors. I have 3 contracts in front of you for review and consideration. And this contract is, we are requesting an extension, and this particular contract provides services to all our perioperative and procedural areas to support the high-level disinfection procedures. And we did an RFP for this particular contract, and we only received 1 vendor responded to the RFP. So we are going back to the market again to a second RFP to attract more vendors. While we are doing that, we are requesting an extension as well as adding dollars to this particular contract to provide the continuous service. So the RFP should be out there, and we will see whether we can get more vendors while we are extending this contract. Any questions?
Any questions
for
Bina?
Harrington's hand.
Right. My question is, I know you only got one vendor to actually apply. Are you comfortable with the service they've been providing? I mean, is it just the fact that we only got one vendor to apply, or are we looking for somebody that can provide a better service moving forward?
Good question. The service they are providing, I no concerns. They are really doing an excellent job with the services. And since, we are opening this to the market, just want to make sure that we are not missing any other vendors can provide equal or better services.
Okay, thank you.
All right. DNA, why don't you go on to the next one?
I just had a question, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Sarah.
I just, Dr. Peters, has something happened in the market with respect to other vendors? Has there been some change in terms of maybe regulations or technology?
Dr. Story, with my knowledge, there is a huge market shift since post-COVID unemployment and also some issues. However, this is a very special field. There are not, as far as I know, there are 3 vendors out there. So I don't see any changes in technology, but also the vendor's ability to support a system. So that's the only thing of why people, we only received 1 response to our RFP. And this particular vendor is one of the market leader.
So this is a very highly specialized and narrow book of business with only 3 major vendors.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have 2 more, Debbie. This particular request is to nursing. We received a HRSA grant to create a transition to practice program for APR. That's a 4-year grant. And Jocelyn Sales is serve as a director, as a contractor director to support the grant. And we are into the 4th year of this grant. So this is to request to continue her services to support the grant. And her salary will be funded. The
Right.
next items on the list is to request to replace the neonatal infant warmers. This is called Panda IRES warmers, and our existing equipments are, actually is ran out of the lifetime, and this is part of our equipment replacement plan. Thank you. This is we are $1,000 plus dollars to replace the neonatal ICU beds.
All right. Next one.
This one is mine, Craig Williams, Interim Chief Administrative Officer for Cook County Health. The first one is Anchor Mechanical. It's an increased contract totaling $700,000. We're currently in a 24-month contract extension through 9/30 of 23. This vendor provides repairs of Stroger's boilers and chillers. We had some out-of-scope repairs needs that exceeded our original contract amount. So we're requesting additional funds to cover our expected maintenance and outstanding invoices for as a result of that work. Okay, this one is the Smith
Craig, you have a
Group.
lot. Keep going.
All right, I'll just keep going. The next is the Smith Group. So they met an extend contract through CIP. We're extending 12 months through 31/24 with no dollar impact. And Smith Group is doing a number of architectural and engineering services for a variety of construction projects we have going across Cook County Health. Next is McDonough Demolition. This is for the Sunstack demolition project at Provident. It's an extend contract. We're asking for a 10-month extension through 1/31 of 24. And this is request is to extend the contract period due to unforeseen site conditions. We're not complete with the work, and so the extension will allow the vendor to have sufficient time to complete the project based on the revised scope of work from the previous amendment. Okay, the next one is cleaning. This original contract started in February 2018 for $817,000, $600. Was originally ending in May of 22. We extended it for time only and it's currently running through May of 2023. We're asking for a 1-year extension. There's plenty of funds on the existing contract through May of 2024. And they provide corporate window cleaning services to Stroger, Provident, Professional Building, and Core. We're doing some roof work, which has delayed some of our window cleaning services. So that's why we still have money left in this contract to want to extend. Okay, the next one is Stericycle. It's an extended increased contract for a total of $888,000. It's a 1-year extension through 3/31 of 24. The original contract was 36 months through 3 of 23 and was sourced through our GPO. The vendor provides waste removal for medical, hazardous, shops, and pharmaceutical waste. The next one is Rush University. This is an extended increased contract for a total of $225,000. Contract runs through 11/30 of 23. The original contract was awarded by an RFP, and we use Rush for renal biopsies, consults, and conference moderation. We're just requesting to extend this while completing RFP for these same services. The next is Relay Health Pharmacy. It's an extended increased contract for a total of $50,000. It's a 6-month extension to 10/31 of 23. The original 36-month contract was awarded through an RFP. We have a completed RFP for these services, and a new contract is currently being negotiated. This vendor provides claims management services for our outpatient pharmacies. Okay, Cardinal Health. This is a 3-year contract for a total of $722,933. Contract would run through 2/28 of 2026. We had two previous contracts with this vendor that were GPO sourced, and the contract is for blood culture, back tech, FX instruments, maintenance and supplies. And this new contract also includes one additional instrument module to expand our testing capacity, which is due to increased workload. The next one I have is for Civgo Radiotherapy. It's a new contract request for 3 years totaling $165,000 through 3/31 of 26. This is sole source because Civco is an exclusive vendor for treatment aids and tabletops associated with our Varian, LINAC, linear accelerators and radiation oncology, which we actually purchased through the same company. And the last one I have is Tech Refrigeration Services. We want to execute a sole source contract of from 4/1 of 23 to 3/1 of 24 for a total of $161,666. This vendor provides preventative maintenance and repair services for our chiller plant and refrigeration equipment at Providence. We have an RFP in process for these services. Our current vendor in this request was a sole source, but we are doing an RFP right now. We want to have a contract in place as we're transitioning to a new vendor, so we don't put Providence at risk for any issues with the chiller or refrigeration equipment. And I think that's it for me.
All right. Any questions for Craig or any of the other people who presented on different contract and procurement items?
I have none.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, on all the people who just went through their items. These are going to be held for the motion below. Now I'd like to go to Charles Jones, our Chief Procurement Officer, to first report on our monthly MBE WBE report.
Thank you, Chair Ryder. For those contracts and procurement items that we just went through, the 30 items, 21 of those, we do have responsive letters back from the Office of Contract Compliance, and 9 outstanding. Before you here, you have the minority and women on business enterprise metrics for the January board items, the fourth column from your left, Friday, January 27th. 27 contracts were presented. Of those 27, 13 had aspirational goals and a dollar amount over 71.7 million, so a little bit below 72 million. 3 of those contracts were prime minority vendors for $16.6 million, roughly 23%. And 7 of those contracts were subcontractors of minority vendors for $18.1 million, a little bit in the neighborhood of 25%. There was 3 waivers, unfortunately, in the amount of $2.6 million. One was for the health plan services, the contract for interactive text communication with members, $800,000. There was a pharmacy contract for mail order pharmacy call center, $1.3 million, and ambulatory with courier services for delivery of lab samples that ended up with a full waiver. So $2.65 million there with those 3 contracts. Overall, for the month of January, approximately 49% participation. The year to date on the total right is the same because we did not meet in December, so this is the January is the first month of the quarter, so numbers for year to date are the same as January. Next page, Debbie. So here you have the bar chart of the 49% participation for January of the aspirational goals. Any questions?
Any questions for Charles? All right, Charles, why don't you move to your next report?
Yes, and here we have the contracts under this Chief Executive Officer for the first quarter of fiscal year 23, December, January, and February. I won't go through them all for you, but it's a list summary here is there's 23 contracts total. All 23 did receive responsive letters from the Office of Contract Compliance. There were a combination of several grant-related contracts, several contracts for the Office of General Counsel, and several contracts for individual consultant services. Some of the higher dollar ones, Lynn and Patel for $149,000 provided legal services to the Office of General Counsel for Certificate of Needs for Medicare and Medicaid audit appeals. Maliki Brooks Law Group, $149,000 also for the Office of General Counsel. Script App Inc. here gave us some capital equipment, some pain analysis for the Department of Public Health, $141,000. SHI International, a GPO contract, $137,000, gave us services of Bonfire, our contract management system and supply chain. And there we put to the next page here. So the health law consultancy, also legal services for the General Counsel, $149,000. Any questions on any specific item?
All right.
Here none. Thank you, Chair.
The now moving on to receiving and filing grant award related items. Pam Kassar, our Chief Financial Officer, will take us through that.
Sure, thanks, Chair. You have before you two grant related items. Both are amendments to roll over prior year funds previously approved by the county board in December of last year. I believe Dr. Fagan may still be on if there's any specific questions. If not, also receive and file the board to the board transfer request that was also approved by the county board last week. But as in prior months, you can see we are transferring from column surplus of salaries and wages and the to column primarily registry services to be able to cover the contracted staffing that we've had in place or continue to have in place. Any questions on that? All right, moving on to the financials. We ended the 2 months into January. Oh, sorry.
I was saying, take it away.
All right, thanks. So we ended the 2 months ended January 59.8 million favorable, almost 60 million to budget. On a cash basis, 148.8 million unfavorable due to primarily to the timing of the county care claims payments coming in and the claims expense going out. So on the revenue side, we had favorable net patient service revenue due to some prior year cost report settlements, higher inpatient volumes, and higher than budgeted directed payments. And we're also favorable to budget on revenue due to the higher county care membership. And then on the expense side, favorable in supplies and purchase services due to lower than budgeted outpatient volumes, and then unfavorable variance due to the county care claims expense. County care came in at 7.4 million, and the membership hit an all-time high of over 450,000. Next slide. So as you look at the financials there, again, just draw your attention to the total revenue line, 40.7 million better than budget due to the reasons I just spoke to. And then the total operating expense line, just slightly above budget at 2.8 million worse than budget, again, primarily due to the claims expense. And then the other thing I would point out is the non-operating revenue. We had a big pickup this month, adding to the positive variance, 22 million, or basically that is the property tax allocation that we get from the county. They caught that up this month. So bottom line, 51 million. The budget was actually to be 8 million negative, so 59.8 million positive variance to budget. Next slide, Debbie. So as you know, the volumes really on the healthcare side and the health plan side drive our financial performance. And here you can see for the last 2 months, volumes a mixture on the variance column there of positive and negative variances. On the inpatient side, Stroger, of course, December, January, we still had a lot of COVID. So very strong inpatient volumes, almost 60 patients per day. better than what was budgeted and prior year. Provident as well, strong, just slightly behind their budget, about 4 patients per day on the inpatient side. So, but in all cases, everything better than prior year and the year before. Next slide, Debbie. And this one as well, as you can see, the graphs, just if you look, the dip in 2020, but pretty much climb back up to that pre-pandemic rate in pretty much all our volumes. Next slide. Our payer mix, as the story has been on the pause on redetermination, the Medicaid has continued to climb while the uncompensated has gone down. Of course, this year with redetermination starting, we'll watch to see if there will be a shift back to some more charity care if people fall off the rolls, but we are going to make every attempt to re-sign folks up as they cross our threshold, and there's a lot of outreach going on around that. Next slide. Revenue cycle. As in prior months, revenue cycle continues to hit on all their key performance indicators. As I reported last month, they did have a system glitch in their discharge not final bill that has since been corrected. They worked through that, continue to work through that through the month of January. And then denials, again, we measure this a couple different ways. We look at the industry benchmark, which is to be less than 2% of cash collections. You can see in the upper right box, we continue to hover around 1%, so that's great. In addition, being so highly Medicare, Medicaid, we monitor the government billing denials, which are also very low and continue to trend down. And then in the middle yellow box there, we break out sort of all the various reasons that denials happen and try to attack the underlying root cause and prevent the denials from happening in the first place. The reasons seem to fluctuate from month to month, but again, overall, the trend is going down. Next slide. This slide illustrates our charitable and public program expenditures. Again, not just the traditional charity and uncompensated, which we'll continue to monitor to see how redetermination will affect that this year, but also all the other services we provide, CIRMAC and GTDC Health and the Department of Public Health, as well as, you know, all the grant-funded programs we have, totaling over around $400 million a year. And then our savings initiatives, this one as well, a mixture of green and yellow. However, we budgeted quite an increase this year on all our savings initiatives. And those yellow ones are just slated to be done, take off later in the year, but we do anticipate we'll catch all those up as the year goes on. And then lastly, county care, of course, the story, the graph at the bottom, we budgeted for redetermination to begin at the start of the year. It will not start until about mid-year before we start to see members fall off the rolls. And again, we're going to do everything we can do to prevent that. And the red bars illustrate, you know, we'll have a good head start and cushion for most of the year. They came in at 7.4 million. They actually budgeted to be $1 million negative, so $8 million better than budget for the 2 months ended January. Any questions? Great, thanks.
Any questions for Pam? All right, hearing none, we're gonna now move on. It's now time to get to our combined motion, unless there are any other questions on anything that we've gone over yet today. Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to accept item 3A, the February 16th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting minutes. Approve item 4A, contracts and procurement items containing requests number 1 through 30, subject to completion of review by contract compliance. Review and file item 5A, grant award related items, and receive and file 5B, transfer of funds. Is there a motion?
So moved, Director Harrington.
Second.
Motion is made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
Roll call vote on the combined motion. Aye or nay, Director Deere?
Deere is aye.
Director Harrington?
Aye.
Director Story?
Director Story is aye.
And Chair Leiter?
Aye. With the exception of my recusal from the United Way item on contract and procurement items.
Thank you. You have 4 yays, 0 nays, notwithstanding your present vote on request number 2 under the contracts.
Great. Thank you, Debbie. Unless anyone has any other business, we've exhausted the agenda and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.